Your probiotic supplement might be completely useless, not because the bacteria are fake, because you're sending them into a wasteland with nothing to eat, an Egyptian root that increases your good gut bacteria by 133% in 3 weeks, a Nile Valley tuber with more prebiotic fiber than every supplement on the market combined, a weed your grandparents pulled from the lawn protecting against autoimmune disease and anxiety at the same time. These foods are thousands of years old. They cost almost nothing. And the supplement industry does not want you to find them. Number 8, especially for ancient civilizations, independently called it sacred. Modern science just figured out why. If you take a probiotic supplement every morning and your gut health still isn't where you want it, this video is the reason why. Probiotics need fuel to survive inside you. That fuel has a name. It comes from specific foods, and the supplement industry has spent billions making sure you never find out because the answer is in a root vegetable, a backyard weed, and a 30-cent banana. Not a capsule, not a powder, food. 10 specific foods. And after this video, you will never look at your gut health routine the same way again. If you want ancestral food wisdom backed by real clinical science delivered every single week, you are in exactly the right place. This is Green Discovery. Hit subscribe right now and ring that notification bell, because what we cover here is not available in a doctor's waiting room or a supplement aisle. Here are 10 prebiotic foods scientists say you are missing, ranked from clinically significant to absolutely extraordinary. Every one of these has fed human gut ecosystems for centuries. Most people have never eaten a single one of them intentionally. Number 1, raw dandelion. For most of recorded history, dandelion was not a weed. It was medicine. Medieval European herbalists documented its ability to restore digestive function after illness across generations. They didn't know why. They just knew it worked, reliably, every time. Dandelion greens contain between 12 and 15 grams of inulin-type fructans per 100 grams of fresh weight, one of the highest prebiotic fiber concentrations found in any commonly available leafy plant. Inulin is selectively fermented by Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus species in the lower colon, feeding the bacteria you want to grow while providing nothing to pathogens. A study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology documented dandelion root extract's capacity to stimulate Bifidobacterium longum, a strain directly associated with reduced intestinal permeability, lower systemic inflammation, and improved resistance to Clostridioides difficile colonization. Intestinal permeability is the upstream mechanism behind autoimmune disease, anxiety disorders, and type 2 diabetes. A food your grandparents pulled from the lawn was protecting against all of it. Think about what that means for the person spending $300 a month on gut health supplements. Traditional use: 50 to 80 grams of raw dandelion greens daily, added to salads or blended into smoothies. Harvest young leaves before flowering for lower bitterness and higher inulin density. Number 2, Jerusalem artichoke. The Abenaki, Iroquois, and Ojibwe peoples cultivated Jerusalem artichoke, a native North American sunflower relative with an edible tuber, as a primary staple for at least 3,000 years. Archaeological records from the Great Lakes region confirm this was intentional cultivation of a food with understood benefits, not casual foraging. Jerusalem artichoke contains between 16 and 20 grams of inulin per 100 grams of raw tuber. Unlike most prebiotic fibers, this inulin survives the acidic stomach environment intact, arriving in the colon structurally undamaged and immediately available to colonic bacteria. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition demonstrated that daily consumption over 4 weeks produced significant increases in fecal bifidobacterium, alongside measurable reductions in serum triglycerides and fasting insulin, 2 primary biomarkers of metabolic disease. The gut shifted. the metabolism shifted with it. That is the mechanism modern medicine is only now beginning to fully map. Traditional use: 80 to 100 grams raw, grated into salads. Introduced gradually over 2 weeks. The high inulin content can cause bloating in individuals with depleted gut bacteria. Number 3, green bananas. There is a global supplement industry built around selling resistant starch in capsules and powders. All of them attempting to deliver what a green banana delivers for 30 cents. Rural communities across Central America, West Africa, and Southeast Asia have eaten green bananas as a dietary staple for centuries. Not as a supplement, as a meal. Green bananas contain between 15 and 22 grams of resistant starch per 100 grams starch that passes intact to the colon, where bacteroids and ruminococcus species ferment it into short-chain fatty acids, primarily butyrate. Butyrate is the primary energy source of colonocytes, the cells lining your intestinal wall. Without adequate butyrate, the lining thins, permeability increases, and systemic inflammation follows. A clinical trial published in Nutrients found that resistant starch, equivalent to 2 green bananas per day, significantly increased butyrate-producing bacterial populations within 6 weeks, with corresponding improvements in fasting glucose and postprandial insulin response. Traditional use: 1 to 2 green bananas daily, boiled in the skin to preserve resistant starch. Consume when the skin is fully green and firm. Resistant starch content falls rapidly with ripening. Number 4, raw chicory root. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning. Chicory root has been documented as a medicinal food for over 4,000 years. Ancient Egyptian papyrus documents reference it for liver and digestive disorders. Roman physicians prescribed it. Medieval monastery records listed alongside primary medicinal herbs. Every culture that encountered it recognized its digestive effects centuries before the word prebiotic existed. Researchers at the University of Illinois conducted a randomized, double-blind crossover study in which participants consumed 10 grams of chicory inulin daily. Within 3 weeks, bifidobacterium populations in the colon increased by 133%, not 13%, 133% from a single dietary change. No pharmaceutical achieves that outcome at that speed with that safety profile. The mechanism is chicory's long-chain inulin fraction degree of polymerization between 10 and 60, which travels further into the colon before fermentation begins, feeding distal bacterial communities that shorter-chain prebiotics never reach. The distal colon is precisely where imbalances associated with colorectal cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, and metabolic syndrome originate. Modern science confirms what Egyptian physicians documented 4,000 years ago. Traditional use: 5 to 10 grams of raw chicory root powder, daily dissolved in warm water or used as a coffee substitute. Start at 3 grams and build tolerance gradually over 2 weeks. Number 5, leeks. Garlic and onion receive all the attention. Leeks receive none. This is a nutritional injustice that costs people measurable health outcomes every single day. Ancient Egyptians consumed leeks as a dietary staple. They appear in the tomb paintings of Luxor alongside bread and beer. Roman records document regular consumption for medicinal purposes. Leeks were not garnish, they were pharmacology. Leeks contain approximately 6 grams of fructooligosaccharides per 100 grams raw, alongside camphorol, a flavonoid that research published in Nutrients identified as a potent inducer of autophagy in intestinal epithelial cells. Autophagy in gut tissue is a documented upstream protector against Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and colorectal carcinogenesis. The FOS fraction simultaneously feeds Lactobacillus, Acidophilus, and Bifidobacterium bifidum, the strains most consistently linked to reduced anxiety and depression scores in gut-brain axis trials. Gut health and mental health in a single vegetable from a food civilization documented 4,000 years ago. Traditional use: 100 to 150 grams raw or lightly sautéed daily. Raw leeks carry the highest FOS content, slice thin into salads or serve with fermented dressings. Avoid boiling fructooligosaccharides leached directly into the cooking water. Number 6. Raw oats. Oats have been consumed across Northern Europe for 8,000 years. Scottish Highland communities eating oats as a primary staple were documented by early nutritional researchers as having notably lower rates of cardiovascular disease and digestive illness than wheat-consuming urban populations. The observation preceded the scientific explanation by decades. Oats contain between 3 and 5 grams of beta-glucan per 100 grams, a soluble fiber that forms a viscous gel in the upper gut, slows gastric emptying, blunts postprandial glucose spikes, and arrives in the colon intact as prebiotic substrate for lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. A meta-analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, analyzing 28 controlled trials, confirmed that 3 grams of beta-glucan daily produced simultaneous reductions in LDL cholesterol, blood pressure, and postprandial glucose, 3 primary cardiovascular risk markers, from a single dietary compound. The oat your great-grandmother ate every morning before she knew any of this was correct. She just called it breakfast. Traditional use: 80 to 100 grams of raw rolled oats soaked overnight in filtered water. Overnight, soaking reduces phytic acid content and increases beta-glucan bioavailability. Consume cold to preserve prebiotic integrity. If you are still here and starting to realize that what the supplement industry has been selling you was a solution in search of a problem, and the actual answer was in a field, a root cellar, or a grocery shelf the entire time, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. It helps this video reach people spending money on products they don't need because nobody told them the truth. And if you haven't subscribed to Green Discovery yet, do it now. We post every single week. Number 7. Raw garlic. Allicin generated the moment garlic is crushed by the enzyme. A lionase acting on a lion is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial active against bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. That is the part most people know. Here is what most people don't. Raw garlic also contains fructooligosaccharides at 9 to 16% of dry weight, making it simultaneously antimicrobial and prebiotic. It kills harmful organisms and feeds beneficial ones in the same swallow. Ebers Papyrus, the Egyptian medical document dated to 1550 BC, lists garlic in 22 separate prescriptions for intestinal complaints and conditions modern practitioners recognize as dysbiosis. A randomized controlled trial in the Journal of Nutrition found daily garlic consumption significantly increased lactobacillus and reduced Clostridium populations within 8 weeks. A microbiome shift associated with reduced colorectal cancer risk, improved immune surveillance, and lower circulating interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. Ancient wisdom built the system. Modern science named the compounds. Traditional use: 2 to 4 raw garlic cloves daily, crushed and allowed to rest for 10 minutes before eating to maximize a lionase activation. Heat above 60 degrees Celsius deactivates a lionase. Raw is the protocol, not a preference. Number 8. Tiger nut. This is the second one I mentioned. Tiger nuts are not nuts. They are the dried tubers of Cyperus esculentus, cultivated in the Nile Valley since at least 4000 BC. Archaeobotanical evidence places them among the earliest intentional food crops in human history. Khoisan peoples of southern Africa, the Hausa of West Africa, and farming communities across the East African Rift Valley have consumed them continuously for thousands of years. Dried tiger nuts contain between 28 and 35 grams of inulin-type prebiotic fiber per 100 grams of dry weight, the highest concentration recorded in any whole food source, exceeding chicory root, Jerusalem artichoke, and every commercially available prebiotic supplement, not by a small margin, 2 to 3 times higher. A study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry confirmed tiger nut inulin shares the same long-chain polymerization profile as chicory inulin, reaching the distal colon intact, feeding bacterial communities that shorter chains never touch, and producing butyrate at rates matching clinical prebiotic interventions. Simultaneously, tiger nuts deliver oleic acid comparable to olive oil and vitamin E at 185% of daily recommended intake per 100 grams. East African populations consuming tiger nuts as a staple showed extraordinarily low rates of the gut-mediated diseases now epidemic in populations that stopped eating them. The correlation is not subtle. Traditional use, 30 to 50 grams of dried tiger nuts soaked 8 to 12 hours before eating to soften and increase inulin bioavailability. Alternatively, blend soaked tiger nuts with water and cinnamon, the traditional West African drink or chata de chufa, one of the most efficient prebiotic delivery systems any food culture has ever produced. Number 9, raw apple with skin. The apple your great-grandmother told you to eat every day was not folk superstition. It was the compression of centuries of observation into a sentence simple enough for a child to memorize. A culture without the word pectin understood what pectin did to a body across a lifetime of daily apple consumption. They understood it through outcomes. They were not wrong. Raw apple skin contains between 1.5 and 3.5 grams of pectin per 100 grams, selectively fermented by Akkermansia muciniphila, the bacterial strain most consistently associated with gut barrier integrity and metabolic health in the modern microbiome literature. Akkermansia cannot be cultured or bottled with current technology. The only reliable way to increase it is through specific prebiotic substrates. Pectin is among the most documented. A study in Nutrients found that daily whole apple consumption over 14 days significantly increased Akkermansia relative abundance alongside Bifidobacterium, while reducing Clostridiales populations linked to inflammation. Apple juice produced no measurable benefit. Processing destroyed the mechanism. Traditional use: 2 raw apples with skin daily. Source organic to avoid pesticide residues that suppress the bacterial population's pectin is meant to feed. Eat at least 1 on an empty stomach in the morning to maximize colonic delivery of intact pectin. Number 10, raw asparagus. And here we are, number 10, the one I saved for last. Asparagus was not always a dinner side dish. In ancient Egypt, it was an offering to the gods depicted in Luxor tomb reliefs as a sacred gift. Greek physicians prescribed it for kidney and digestive complaints. Ayurvedic medicine classified it under the name shatavari as a rasayana, a rejuvenating food capable of sustaining health across an entire lifespan. Every culture that cultivated asparagus elevated it beyond nourishment into medicine. There is a biological reason for that elevation. Raw asparagus contains 2 to 3 grams of inulin per 100 grams, accompanied by saponins, rutin, and glutathione, a combination that researchers at Wageningen University described as a synergistic prebiotic matrix. Compounds that simultaneously increase mucosal layer thickness and feed the bacteria responsible for maintaining it. A 2019 study in Food Research International documented that regular raw asparagus consumption increased Bifidobacterium longum and Lactobacillus acidophilus within 4 weeks, alongside measurable increases in fecal butyrate. The intestinal wall strengthened at the same time the bacterial ecosystem feeding it became richer. Ancient and modern arriving at precisely the same place. But here is what places asparagus at the end of this list. Of all the prebiotic foods documented in the scientific literature, asparagus is the only one for which four geographically unconnected ancient civilizations, Egyptian, Greek, Indian, and Chinese, independently recognized its role in sustaining long-term health. Not just nourishment, not just digestion, health maintenance across an entire lifetime. The ancients agreed on almost nothing. They agreed on asparagus. Modern science is only now understanding why. Traditional use: 100 to 150 grams of raw asparagus daily, consumed immediately after cutting. Prebiotic compounds begin degrading within hours of harvest. Thin spears carry higher inulin concentration than thick ones. Dress with raw apple cider vinegar and olive oil. The acetic acid and oleic acid create a digestive environment that maximizes inulin fermentation in the lower colon. What you have just heard is not a wellness trend. Dandelion greens in medieval Europe, tiger nuts in the Nile Valley, Jerusalem artichoke in the Great Lakes, green bananas across the equatorial belt, asparagus in four separate ancient civilizations on four separate continents. These are not coincidences. These are data points from the largest clinical trial in human history, thousands of years of populations eating specific foods and observing what happened to the people who ate them consistently versus the people who stopped. The microbiome did not evolve on probiotic supplements. It evolved on the specific prebiotic fibers of these traditional foods provided. Every day, across entire lifetimes, across entire generations. Remove the fuel and the community collapses. Modern rates of autoimmune disease, metabolic syndrome, depression, and colorectal cancer are, in significant part, the documented biological consequence of that collapse. The prebiotic foods on this list are not exotic interventions. They are not the discovery of a wellness influencer or the invention of a functional food company. They are what a human gut was built to receive. What ancestral populations understood by observation? What clinical research is now confirming one controlled trial at a time? Ancient wisdom knew it. Modern science confirms it. The gap between those two statements is the gap most people are currently living inside. You don't have to. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Are you Team Jerusalem artichoke or Team tiger nut? Which prebiotic food from this list are you adding to your diet first? I read every single comment on this channel, and I genuinely want to know where you are on this journey. If this changed how you think about gut health, hit that like button before you close this video. Subscribe to Green Discovery and ring that notification bell. We post every single week. And next week's video may be the most important one we have ever published. We will see you then.